Hi folks, this is All the Fruit, and today I'll be foraging in Borneo, in the state of Sarawak, in Malaysia, near the Indonesian border. This is the road between the capital of Kuching and the Indonesian border. A limestone area. The lowlands have been locked decades ago, and a lot of them have been planted with oil palms now. Maybe not the most clever decision, because the secondary vegetation I see here is quite a poor one, rich in ferns and poor in tall secondary trees. But let's see how it turns out for this oil palm plantation. Right here I see a pitcher plant. Those things can be quite useful to get water in the wild, because, well, they are pitchers. They are full of water, or rather digestion liquid, which is there to break up insects. Of course, you don't take one of those which are already full of ants and other stuff. If you're in a survival situation, you find one of those which are still closed, and inside you will find a tiny amount of water. Impressive vertical cliffs and almost vertical slopes, which have not been locked. You must be crazy to harvest the trees from such a place. And over there, this really signature monolith, this about 150 meter tall rock. I'm not gonna climb it today, but I wanna go around it. I said the secondary vegetation here is pretty poor, entering the oil palm plantation now. However, up there I see bracken. Bracken is a fern which is widespread even in temperate areas. It's widespread across Europe, and I always thought that it mostly grows on poor land. However, my grandfather, who is from the Balkan mountains, said, no, actually wherever you have bracken, that means the soil is good enough to plant potatoes, which need quite some high amount of nutrients. And interesting enough, the Iban in Borneo, and most probably also the Bidayu, but I read a paper about the Iban. They say land where you have bracken, you can plant the hill paddy. It's good land. If there is no bracken but just other ferns, it's not really good. So here we have bracken, which means that this soil is, well, not the worst soil you can get. Still quite good and quite fertile. It's so amazing that the same wisdom the Iban here in an equatorial rainforest climate have, you can use the same wisdom in the cold Balkan mountains of Bulgaria. Of course, the oil palm plantation is quite boring for foraging, and of course you can say a lot of negative things about those oil palms. Yeah, people are cutting the jungle in some places for oil palm plantation, but here it was poor secondary vegetation of dubious value, which was removed in most parts. They're also cutting down some quite good jungle behind those mountains. I'm not sure if it's for oil palm plantations, but yes, sometimes they cut down jungle for oil palm plantations. The biggest oil palm harvests are of course done by big firms and corporations. However, many thousands of small farmers also have small oil palm gardens, which are often their only income. Yes, of course, the oil palm plantation creates a lot of disturbance and erosion. Open soil is absolutely untypical for rainforest climate. Usually, whenever a tree falls, the soil gets covered immediately by new plants. So yeah, the oil palm plantations are really not natural, and there is a lot of criticism about them. However, tell me, what's the alternative to oil palm? All this rapeseed and sunflower oil from Europe and the US? I mean, this is at least some type of permaculture. Well, for rapeseed and sunflower plantations, yeah, they replace the name rape with canola nowadays, but it's still, the plant's name is rape, and the seed you take from it is what you use for oil in countries like Germany. There you have to do a lot more erosion and a lot more fertilizer and a lot more pest control than in a oil palm plantation, and the oil palm plantation will still produce more oil than a rapeseed or sunflower field with less disturbance. And also, right now it's basically the only way for those people to have a financially sustainable large-scale agriculture. So yes, oil palm plantations, they do a lot of harm, but they also do a lot of good, and we should not condemn them. However, for my foraging, really, there is not much inside this oil palm plantation. Right next to this oil palm plantation is another type of plantation, very typical for Southeast Asia. It's a rubber tree plantation. However, you might notice that those trees have not been tapped in a very long time. My friend Ringus this morning told me they usually don't do it anymore. Only when the price goes up, sometimes he goes and taps rubber trees. He said the last time, about 2015, that's 8 years ago, the price was high enough for him to do this. Well, high enough, 4 ringgit a kilo, and he described that he has to process this stuff before he sells it. I think for 4 ringgit it was still not really worth it. Now the price is well under 4 ringgit, so in Malaysia almost nobody taps the oil palm, the rubber trees anymore. In Indonesia and even Thailand and Cambodia and Vietnam, where wages are considerably lower, people still do large-scale rubber harvest, but in Malaysia, basically this afforestation with rubber trees was kind of a fail because they usually don't even use them anymore. So impressed with this monolith. The landscape of Borneo is usually, well, not too exciting, like either flatlands or really flat swamps or rolling hills or sometimes steep hills. But from time to time, you get such impressive cliffs. What are those mushrooms here? I have no idea what they are, but they seem to grow on the young oil palms. Actually, they are mushrooms they harvest from the litter of the oil palm plantations. I've seen them on the market and they told me they are from the litter of the oil palm plantations, from the refuse of the nuts. I hope I'll find some of those mushrooms here. And then my other goal is, there seems to be one valley into this limestone massif, and it seems that about a kilometer inside this massif there is even some sort of cleared field or farm or garden, which means, yeah, it's going to be more disturbed, less native plants to see, and more like plants which are typical for disturbed areas, but it also means that there must be a trail which I can use to get there. Here we have the oil palm nuts, and some animal has been at them. Yeah, squirrels and a lot of other animals attack them. I'm usually eating those, I don't know. They are using a lot of pesticides, some I think against the squirrels. The squirrel is a mammal, so whatever harms the squirrel could also harm me. But I like those oil palm fruits. Why is nobody eating them? They should select a good variety from them. Around here, all this limestone wonderland between Bau and Tebedu, they have those random limestone rocks jetting out of the field, sometimes out of a rice paddy, sometimes out of a cornfield. Very beautiful. Here they are pretty much overgrown. I think that's where a lot of Chinese and East Asian art originates. Those sand gardens basically originated partially from those beautiful fields with single rocks sticking out of them. There are a couple much more beautiful examples around here. And even in such a remote place, I find terong pipit, the pea eggplant, the smallest of the eggplants grown around here. The plant is too young, no fruits. The fruits are the size of peas, and I think that's the reason this thing is growing feral in many places, because the fruits have not been bred to giant sizes, and you can basically grow it without much care. very small eggplants on it, but very tasty. But this plant is too young still. Erosion hits so much harder in the rainforest climate. You have no winter where the land is covered in snow and ice. Also, you hardly have a dry period where the land can rest. So yeah, you have erosion all the time, and even the invisible erosion is also quite dangerous. Even like here where you don't see a lot of gullies and stuff, the nutrients are still being leached out of the land. So yeah, they should quickly find a way to cover this sand here. I mean, here we have limestone and poor sand. I don't think that that those soils are the best for retaining nutrients. And I think if you want to grow oil palms here, you should really get a hold of proper erosion control and nutrient retention. Once again, the beautiful monolith. I'll walk past it, and then later have to turn left into this massive. Here another, well, less steep mountain, but still steep enough so that it wasn't worth logging when they logged the lowlands around here. So a lot of giant trees are left there. So I hope that a couple giant fruits have fallen down the slopes. Wild bananas are a sign of disturbance, and in such a big population might be able to find some ripe ones. Well, here I see that they are just monkey fingers bananas. Those little groups of rocks are acting as islands of biodiversity within the plantation. Yeah, those bananas are starting to get ripe, but firstly, they are not ripe enough, and secondly, monkey fingers, they are not really some of the really good bananas. Not gonna get scratched up for them. Here is the huge monolith, not looking so steep from here, but those two other monoliths which are to the left and to the right of this little passage, I hope you can see all the karst formations here, the grooves made into the rock by the water, and then all the stalactites. I guess most of the stalactites were created while those areas were more or less cave-like. Some can also be created in the open. That means there must be a lot of caves here with bats, and especially with swiftlets. I wonder if they have a big swiftlet, a big bird's nest or swiftlet nest collecting community here, like for example Nia National Park. Nia is a national park, but still the local villagers are allowed to harvest the bird's nest from the caves while the tourists watch. And as far as I understand it right, after you harvest the first bird's nest, which is made mostly from the spit of the bird, it makes a second one of lower quality, which is not so good for consumption, so they let it nest in there. So it seems to be kind of a sustainable way of harvesting those. But yeah, still it's quite a lucrative business. That's why sometimes they are hanging on those high cliffs. So I wonder if they do this here too. Also, it would be interesting if I found a couple of honeycombs of the giant sting bees here. My friend Ringus is the giant sting bee hunter of the nearby village of Pichin. However, I think it's not nearby enough. I think this here is the territory of the next village already. And he said he wants to harvest honey in the territory of another village. He has to give them part of the honey, that's why it's not worth the trouble. But still, it would be nice if I found a couple giant sting bee super colonies hanging here from the cliffs. Also, I'm a bit short on food and water. I had almost 3 liters when I started, and I drank almost half of it basically at the beginning of the trip. Well, there will be karst springs and little karst creeks around here. I'm sure I'll find water. However, in a limestone area, you will not find water everywhere. Finding water in a limestone area is maybe the most important survival skill. Also, I just had a plate of noodles for breakfast. Those basically don't do anything for me, those thin Asian noodles. So I need to find some nice big fruits, durian or champedak or tarap or something like this. Not gonna starve, I'm too fat for that, but still, I really want some good fruits. Always observe the local wildlife and its traces. Those look like feral dog traces. Also, today, trucks and pedestrians have passed from here. Well, they are workers in the plantations all the time. I hope they are not gonna kick me out, because unfortunately they are used to white people only complaining about palm oil. There are some fruits on this tree with the big brown leaves, but I'm too lazy to go there. I think I've tried them at one point and they were not tasty. Also, I think this is a giant taro or something like this. And right now it's flowering with really beautiful flowers. Here's some lingera, a relative of torch ginger. Opa! I'm stuck in the mud. Unfortunately, come on. Fortunately, not the real torch ginger itself. All those lingeras and most of the gingers are edible. Here people sometimes get a little bit angry when I call everything a ginger, because for them all those Singiberaceae plants are different plants. Well, I guess if you would call every rosaceous fruit an apple, most of the fruits we have in temperate areas are rosaceous fruits, so ending up calling cherries and peaches and almonds and everything apples also would not sit well with us. They have a lot of names for the different gingers and a lot of uses. Yeah, I want some torch ginger. It's really nice and tasty. Had some for dinner yesterday and it was delicious. A truck full of palm oil clusters. Should I avoid it? Okay, nope, nothing to hide. And they ask me where I'm going, telling them the truth. I'm going to the cliffs, to the mountains. Let's see, maybe they will even provide some valuable information. Always listen to the locals. It's funny, there was one time I was reading a couple of survival books because I thought I can learn a lot from them. I did not learn much from them, but it was interesting, the different types of... You could see the background of the people writing these books. There was one who said, well, always hack every tree, they'll give you the energy you need to survive. Oh, by the way, here we have a Moluccan bramble, the only rubus which is common in Borneo. Well, always hack every tree, respect nature, thank every fruit you eat. You know what the other one said? When you are marching through an area, respect the locals. Don't disrespect and genocide them, because after you defeat it, you might have to go back through the same area, and then your life depends on those locals. And it was pretty obvious that this was a guy from the German Wehrmacht who spoke about his experience from Russia, where the Germans did not treat the Russians nicely and then had to retreat for thousands of miles through Soviet territory, and the mistreatment of the locals, yeah, was basically quite a mistake. So I'm always nice to the locals, and especially always try to find out as much information as possible from them. So this is again the huge monolith from this side. From this side it's much wider, and up there, very high up there, is a cave. Not going there. More monkey fingers bananas. More Moluccan bramble. And there are even a couple ripe fruits there. Let's go and get them. This is, well, I wouldn't call it the Borneo raspberry because there is a slightly tastier one in the mountains. Let's call it the red Borneo bramble. The fruits are nothing special. Oh, here a banana has been bulldozed. The fruits are nothing special. They are just juicy and sour. Not thirsty like our temperate areas rubuses, but quite nice. Oh, and also this guy, this German Wehrmacht guy was also giving tips on how to survive a Soviet gulag as a German prisoner of war. Pretend you are sick, then you just have to cut, like, what was it, 5 cubic meters of timber every day instead of 10 like the healthy prisoners of war. Millions of those Germans didn't survive the prisoner of war camps, but they killed millions of Russians before, so it's kind of a bit of a poetic justice. This guy apparently survived, was able to write books in Germany. Checking this cliff face for some vines bearing fruits, some interesting epiphytes. This is, of course, such steep cliffs are really islands of biodiversity within the bulldozed plantation area. This one plantation stretches for many square kilometers around here, so it's not the plantation of some private little farmer, but of a big corporation. This tree has a lot of little orange fruits, huge clusters of little orange fruits at the stem. It's cauliflorus. I guess it's some sort of strangler fig. See all the roots it sends out? Pretty sure it's a strangler fig. Also down here, caves, and sometimes there seems to be a creek here. I'm not going down there right now. This quite sizable fruit I found on a limestone hill in Kalimantan, and the people told me, no, this fruit is very toxic, so always listen to the locals. Not sure if it's very toxic, but if they say it's very toxic, stay away from it. Also, another advantage if I meet those people is, I'm going here in pretty remote areas. Yeah, right now I'm still in a plantation, but I want to go inside the limestone cliffs. Basically, my hosts, they know more or less where I want to go, but it's better to meet somebody on the way. If I get lost, if they send out a search party, it's good to have somebody who can say, I met the stupid white man in this or that location. Well, a small cave-like thing. Sure, I could find a wealth of interesting stuff in there, but I want to press on towards the big limestone massif. Also, I'm slowly starting to adopt the locals' attire. Last year I would hike mostly without a hat and just with the wife beater. Now I have long sleeves. I also got myself Adidas Kampung rubber shoes. Unfortunately, they don't last very long. After less than 10 days they are falling apart. Of course, I have a parang because I want to show off. But also, you don't leave the villages in Borneo without a parang. Beautiful, super diverse vegetation. This is the most diverse vegetation in the world, folks. The Southeast Asian tropical rainforest. Well, maybe together with the South American rainforest, those are the two most biodiverse in the world. You still see, 80% of the time you see the same species, but among them there are a lot of much rarer ones. And check out every little pocket of biodiversity left, because from time to time you can strike gold. Unfortunately, unlike Pichin, which is, well, on the other side of this limestone massif, which I want to enter from this side, Pichin, right now it's in the fruit season. This area does not seem to be in the fruit season, so this 300-meter tall, 5-kilometer wide jungle area. Oh, here, by the way, that's what squirrels do to oil palms. This quite small jungle area creates such a difference in seasons, because here you don't have much temperature difference. We are basically on the equator. Rainfall makes a big difference, so a small hill which redirects and redistributes the rainfall will make a big difference in... Wow, what is this? Well, I'm not referring to the beautiful vines and everything here. I'm not even referring to the huge flower of most probably Musa borneensis. Nope, I'm referring to those fruits, big green fruits on the tree which open like orange flowers. See those? Green fruits, and then they explode like a fist which opens and reveal the orange inside. Are those edible for humans? They are probably meant for birds and flying foxes. There should also be tons of flying foxes in here. However, I think one of the surrounding villages is Malayu. They are Muslims, they don't eat flying fox. But the Bidayu and other Dayak around here. Dayak is mostly a name used in Indonesia. Some groups in Malaysia still don't want to adopt it, like the Iban. Well, the different Dayak, like the Iban and Bidayu, especially around here, I'm sure they come here for flying fox hunting. Okay, so this other banana species, not sure if it's Musa borneensis. The huge flower head kind of points towards Musa borneensis. The fruits look a lot like bullets, while the monkey fingers fruits look a lot like ampulle. Those look more or less like cylinders. They are still very young. This could also be some other thing and not Musa borneensis. Musa borneensis should be a bit more pink. Folks, if you know what wild banana flower this is, please tell me. Here a medicinal plant my friend Ringo showed me. I'm not sure, is it gluta or what was the Latin name? He showed me the Latin name yesterday. And this is Singapore rhododendron, a very important plant to reduce all types of inflammation. But also the fruits are edible. However, those fruits are still unripe. Let's see if I can find ripe ones. And it's also a popular ornamental because of the big flowers. It's more or less replaces the rhododendron in those equatorial areas which are too hot for rhododendron. A bunch of red berries. Those could be beauty berries. There are hundreds of beauty berry species here in the eastern parts of Asia. And a lot of beauty berries are edible. However, folks, never ever eat something just based on, well, it could be this or that, because this or that could kill you. Rattan, the rope, basket and mat of the jungle, very important jungle product. However, also the spiniest plant in the jungle. It's pretty much impossible to cross this thicket. You will literally get cut to shreds. If you would chase something into that thicket, there is a good chance they would get stuck and would not be able to move, no matter what. Hundreds of fishing hooks, thousands of long spines. Quite a painful experience, I can tell you from experience. I think this was another Calicarpa, but it's not ripe yet, so I cannot confirm it. Very strange salt coming out from this cliff. Almost like an engine. Is it an echo from somewhere else? Or have they put something in a cave here? It must be a watery cave. No, I cannot hear it anymore. Engine. Can it be an echo? Too many leaves, they would swallow any echo. Such a remote area, always find out where a machine sound comes from. A giant stingbee tree, those... Ooh. What the? Where's the sound again? Oh, the giant stingbee tree. Those particularly tall trees, which have branches only in the upper part and the very smooth bark, are very good against bears. Imagine a bear who wants to get the honey has to climb 20-25 meters up a trunk without branches and with a very smooth bark, at the same time being attacked by tens of thousands of angry bees. The honeycombs will hang from the branches of this tree when the flowers around here are in season. The bees are migratory. They always migrate to the area where the trees are flowering. Right now I don't see too many flowering trees around here, so the chance of finding an active stingbee colony are quite low. Whenever I see this fig, I have to think of Waldo, a young Dayak boy who taught me a lot about Borneo survival. Well, Kalimantan survival in his case. He's from Kalimantan, the Indonesian part. Look at the leaf weaver ants. Well, those figs are still unripe, green and yellow. Have to wait for them to get red. What do those ants do around the figs? Do we have? I think they are. Oh yeah. They are aphids there, so they are milking the aphids. And where is the nest? The nest should be a couple big leaves woven together. So the figs are not ripe, nothing for me to forage there, but at least the ants are happy. Maybe they are not leaf weaver ants, because I don't see any leaves woven together. Those ants are extremely important for the forager for two different reasons. Stay away from the trees where they live. You try to climb the tree, well, the sting of one ant is not as bad as the bite of one ant is not as bad as the sting of a giant sting bee, but they are still incredibly painful. And second, you can actually harvest the nests without climbing the tree and get out the tasty larvae and pupae, which is being done a lot in Cambodia and Thailand. So very important animal for the avid forager. I have to get out of this plantation. If the palms were higher, they would provide more shade. I mean, the sky is partially covered, but still the equatorial sun is something unique. It's different from your sun on the beach. This sun can burn you even through the clouds. You have to get to the jungle as fast as possible. Finally, one ripe Singapore rhododendron. When they get ripe, the lid pops off and the black inside of the fruit get exposed. Black and red is a color combination which attracts birds. The birds eat the sweet morsel. They don't chew the tiny seeds, swallow them and disperse them. This is the gap in the limestone massif I'm aiming at. I thought it would be a narrow gap, but no, it's a wide valley. Better for me. A narrow gap might be quite rocky. A wide valley might be easier to manage. This little reservoir here was created on purpose. Maybe to wash your feet. Always, when you see some little details in the middle of nowhere, find out who made them and why, because you might be able to use them for the same purpose. Several banana species growing close together, at least two of them flowering, and I'm ashamed to say, no idea what those are. Purple bracts with green tips, yellow, those are the tiny stingless honeybees. So there must be a nest of the stingless honeybees. They are not migratory like the giant sting bees. Yellow flowers, purple bracts with green tips. Well, the good dish bananas are already gone. Here this other species with the big flower head. Oh, some of the bananas seem to be good. Not on this bunch, but the one with the big flower head. And they get a lot of tiny stingless honeybees on it. I think I'll make a video of this. A little creek with crystal clear water. I'm not gonna die from thirst. However, there is also runoff from the plantation, so a lot of pesticides and fertilizers. I still have a full water bottle. I don't need this. In a survival situation, this water, I would say, would be okay to drink. You would get some negative effects from it, but not as bad as the negative effects from dehydration and dying of dehydration. Those animals that fly around this pole, they look a lot like stingless honeybees, but they fly so fast, cannot see them. Let's see if we can find the entrance to a stingless, oh no, they are bigger than stingless honeybees, which means they could be stinging black hornets. Why are they flying around here? Maybe they are mating. Okay. Ah, yes. There is a nest of stingless honeybees in here. Oh, but it's the nest of the tiny species, so not those big black things flying around here. See the tiny black things flying here into this hole? This is the nest of the smallest of the 3 stingless honeybee species around here. They are teeny tiny, the size of small mosquitoes. See? 2 coming out right now. So those big ones, they are circling the tree for a different reason. If I would chop up the tree with my parang, well, I would kill the dwarf stingless bee colony. They would also get a small amount of honey. People around here, they usually don't harvest the nests of the smallest dwarf stingless bee because it seems the amount of honey is not too big. If it was a nest of the slightly bigger honeybees, they would come with a saw, cut the trunk here, cut the trunk somewhere here to expose the nest, bring it back home or sell it to a beekeeper who will have dozens of those in his garden, and he would regularly harvest the honey from the stingless honeybee nest. But as I said, usually they don't do it for the small ones, and also I don't want to disturb them. But nice. A nest of the smallest dwarf stingless honeybee in the area. Scat of some big animal, maybe a munsang. 1 big insect and 2 types of fruits, of seeds, of big sweet juicy fruits. So this thing just told me that there are big juicy fruits in the area. So not all is lost yet. I always forget the names of those fruits. The leaves are very useful, they are very tough. The plant is a popular ornamental. Fruits on the ground are in those cocoons of slime, of jelly. However, no fruits seem to be ripe on this one yet. Here the big limestone monolith from the other side. A bit of trouble to determine which is the correct main access to the jungle. Should be a type of road, but there are several abandoned, overgrown roads very close together. Also my GPS seems to be off by 20-30 meters sometimes. But I guess this should be the correct road. Here a giant cut down the stump of a cut down and bulldoze jungle tree. If it's Balian or Borneo ironwood, this stump could be older than me. It could still be here when I am no more. Around the pictures, Ringus told me that the stems of those pitcher plants are quite good for cordage. I'm more interested in the water-bearing pitchers, but I don't see any right now. Yes, this looks exactly like the road I saw on Google Maps. A green strip through the jungle. However, if I walk in here, I'm gonna get hurt. Lots of painful grasses and ferns. No problem with long pants and boots, but But my shorts are gonna get cut up, so this is not an option for now. A beautiful orchid. Those are incredibly common along roadsides on very poor soil. Orchids are quite good at dealing with poor soil because of their mycorrhiza mushrooms. Here, a lot of pitchers. Also, that's not the species I usually use for water, it's a different one. Look at all those cute pitchers. You know what the locals use them for? They cook sticky rice in them. Sometimes you can find it on the markets, pitchers full of sticky rice. Very bad for my plants. Plant B could access the area through this little creek. However, it seems to be muddy and difficult to traverse. Also, this valley being white means that white like broad means that it's not gonna be pristine jungle, it's gonna be locked and it's gonna be secondary vegetation. So cutting my plants short, really not a good thing. Have to adapt somehow. Okay, there seems to be a small side creek. The main creek is 100 meters ahead this way, so I have one more chance. I think those fruits here are those very sweet fruits that the flying fox like. The locals don't eat them. When I was foraging with Ringus, he ate one. He said, yep, very sweet. The flying fox eat them. We don't eat them. Strange. Why wouldn't they eat a fruit that's very sweet and not so hard to get? Here is a mushroom I see sometimes on the markets, and it is growing out of the oil palm fruits, but I was looking for a different, much more massive mushroom. This bunch here is overdue for harvesting. The fruits are already coming off, probably removed by an animal, but still, since I haven't found anything substantial yet, this is going to be my lunch now. This creek is flowing in the wrong direction. However, it is going into some jungle-like stuff. Now the most important question is, how firm is the sand? No! I thought it would be loose, but not that loose. Even my backpack. Oh no, my backpack stayed dry. My phone stayed dry. I don't know, man. Shit could get a lot deeper further ahead. Completely soaked to the waist. Oh well, at least it's nice and cool in here. Fishes. At least a change from the oil palm plantation. Let me just partially clean my poor legs. So, no fruits around here. They're not gonna catch the fish. So on the first glance, no important resources around here. However, let's see. What did I want? I wanted to get out of the sun. Check. I wanted to get into the jungle with more resources and options. Check. I wanted drinking water. A lot of it is coming from the plantation. Check with a big question mark. Check only in a survival situation. Now remains basically the last two things, interesting fruits and food. Well, not only fruits can be food. Bamboo can also be food. For the ones who know how to process bamboo, because bamboo is one of the itchiest plants in the jungle. See here this bamboo sprout, over 1 meter tall. Let me try and find a shorter one. Here is another edible one, but it's 1.5 meters tall. I could continue searching, finding a shorter one, but okay, I'll risk it with this one. First I have to get out of the creek, and then I have to process this bamboo properly, avoiding the ample itching powder. See those black hairs? They're incredibly itchy. Even flying through the air could be too much. Here is the tasty edible part. Okay, got it. Too many thorns around here. Okay, still have to remove the remaining hairs. Okay, chopped it up horribly. My Borneo friends would be embarrassed, but too bitter for my taste. Sorry buddy, maybe boiled you would be okay. Giant ants, almost an inch long. But I'm not starved enough to eat a bamboo shoot which is that bitter. If I find a younger one, that's a different story. You think those bamboos over 1 meter overground are not a problem? Tell this to people like me. Not only tall, but increasingly bulky. Here some rotten palm with small white fruits. Some of those are kind of edible, but mostly not worth the trouble. Here, just look at them, not gonna eat them. A red jungle snake fruit palm. However, no red jungle snake fruit on it. Here ahead we have a big sugar palm which has collapsed. Sugar palm can give you a lot of food. It's one of the trees, you find it in the jungle, you cannot starve anymore. Well, there are a lot of young sugar palms here. Yesterday we cut down a young sugar palm and cooked it, and it was delicious. Also you can tap the inflorescences for a sugary syrup from which you can make sugar or wine or whatever. You can eat the fruits, the unripe fruits, however they seem to be covered with itchy hairs, so they need to be processed a lot to remove those hairs. So in a survival situation I would totally stay away from sugar palm fruits, because as I said, the palm can provide so many other resources to you. They're all a little bit hard to get. You have to chop away all the leaves to get to the heart of the palm. Also tapping it is not as easy as it sounds, but still easier than processing itching fruit which can hurt you even more in a survival situation. More and more of those little streams flowing together. From time to time I find white plastic, or those white fiber plastic bags in here. Trash is very important. I did not see any other trash around here. That means there are no inhabited areas upriver, but there are those. There is one type of trash, those bags. So you know, maybe, just maybe, there is one type of operation upriver, or there was one type of operation upriver, and humans. It's very important if you want to get saved. The stream is full of trash. You go upstream to find human habitation. No trash means it's pristine upriver. You go downriver to find human habitation. You find only one type of trash. Probably there is some type of mining or logging or exploration. Then you read this type of trash. Agromix. You must find out, well, right now I know I just came from a oil palm plantation. Agromix. Stand Borneo, of course everything in Malaysian. But I'm sure somewhere I would see some word like, phosphates or nitrates, and agromix shows me there is some agricultural operation upriver, which is a more long-term operation and many logging operations. So if I'm lost and in a survival situation and I see a couple of those bags, I go upriver because probably there is some sort of farming upriver. In our case, we pretend we don't know that there is a giant oil palm plantation upriver. And yeah, in that oil palm plantation I heard a couple engines, I saw a truck or two. So if I was really lost in the jungle up there, I would be already saved. Oh, here we have something. Ooh, now this is interesting. I've never seen this exact thing. What is this? Whenever you're in the jungle, always look at everything people have left there, especially stuff they've left deliberately. What is this? Can it be a trap for an animal? Can it be a sign that there is a trap behind it? They put quite a lot of effort into making this one. Sticking those two bamboos into the ground, making holes into them, sticking the other bamboos inside. Could be a trap. I've never seen anything religious around here. Ringus told me they became Christians in the 70s. In other areas I've seen still animist religions, little religious animist shrines in the deep jungle. In this area I've seen a lot of slings in the deep jungle. I would still say, but what animal can you catch with this type of thing? When you see this in the deep jungle, it doesn't mean yet that you are safe, because hunters could have traveled days into the jungle to make this. And also it could be already months old and they could have been gone for months. So yeah, every trace of humans in the deep jungle is interesting. Here we are not in a deep jungle, but we pretend. However, some traces can mean that salvation is near, and some traces can mean that somebody was here at some time ago. I guess I never learn. Yeah, walking carefully, you don't sink in so deep. Jumping from half a meter or a meter, you go a lot deeper. Well, should have known this when I was 3. So let's say we learned it today. Here is the rare red jungle snake fruit. You might know the brown snake fruits from Thailand or from Bali and Java. This here is much better. Very small inflorescence. Sometimes you get dozens of fruits in one inflorescence. This one is tiny and hidden under this leaf. Come on, what is there? 4 or 5 fruits max. Well, not gonna eat a giant inflorescence anyway. Usually they're a little bit too sour for me. So I guess this is the exact right size for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple of days ago we found 2 inflorescences with about 60 fruits each. Okay. Still bright red, that means still not 100% ripe. Very nice combination of sweet and sour. Sour is dominating. I would have preferred them a bit more ripe, but totally good enough. Just not enough for a complete lunch. Look how those epiphytic ferns are growing on the dead bamboo. I'm wondering if the stream is going to go very deep into the jungle. I thought the main stream would go out of the jungle. This seems to be the opposite. Is it going very deep into the jungle? Or is it going to emerge into re-emerge into the oil palm plantation after a couple 100 meters? The stream is getting bigger and deeper with every tributary. And so the danger for me to get into really deep quicksand increases. This is not typical for a jungle stream. A jungle stream would have only quite a small amount of sand and silt, but logging and farming produce erosion, and of course this soil has to end up somewhere. Most of it ends up in the sea. That's why here we have a sea called the Yellow Sea near China, and even the other seas are murky for dozens of miles from the coast. But a lot of it, of course, also ends up in the floodplains. So don't think that such sandiness and murkiness is natural. A jungle stream is crystal clear, except if it's black water, and it's usually with such small stones. Here, by the way, a huge vine. Could this be Borneo rubber? Huge and really tasty fruits. No idea. Also here, a vine with horrible spines. Some beautiful jungle mushrooms. But I must conclude that around here we are not in the fruit season. That means I will continue foraging for the rest of the day. The next couple of days I'll be foraging on the Pichin side, because there I wouldn't have problems to get fed. The ground is littered with giant, smelly, tasty, juicy fruits. Nothing of this around here. I've had the old palm fruit, the snake palm, the snake fruit, and the two tiny Moluccan brambles. Not even a durian or a champedak. One more of those things. Should ask Ringus what they are. Probably some traps. And another one. And yet another one. What are those? A big tree fungus. So nice and flat and smooth. You could use this as a plate. I had a crazy idea. If this river is going into the jungle, just to continue and get out at the other side. But then I checked on the aerial photograph. If this river is really traversing this whole jungle area, for which I have no proof at all, because it's moving under the trees and I can just see where it goes from time to time. As you see from above, you cannot really see it. But on the map I have moved just maybe 2% into the jungle area, so 98% still to go. Oh, this looks a bit like the angry leaf. No, it's not hairy enough to be the angry leaf. The angry leaf is the itchiest plant in the jungle. Let's stay away from it. Well, nah, I thought I would be already like 20% into the jungle, but no, I'm just 2%. Definitely not enough to cross the whole 5 or 6 kilometers to the next village through the hills, through the river. 5 or 6 kilometers on a straight line, but not on a meandering river. And also walking in water, especially when it gets deeper, is several times more difficult than walking on dry land. And walking in soft sand is also more difficult than normal jungle trekking. So at some point, if this river does not go back to the old palm plantation, at some point I will have to turn back. Here you see why the rattan is the rope of the jungle. This is almost indestructible. Here you see why everybody fears it, because the thorns are also almost indestructible. You get caught on them, especially the hooked ones, which you don't see here in this picture. You cannot break loose. You have to stop and remove them carefully from your skin or your equipment. Otherwise, the thorns will not break. your flesh with your stuff well. One little unripe Tocarpus elasticus fruit. And here some other fruit I'm not familiar with. Definitely not in the fruit season. On the other side of the hills, this little river would be clogged with fruits. Oh, how shall I cross this? I don't want to squeeze down there. Of course, this also slows you down every 50 meters or so. Have to traverse something. Size matters. And so does weight. Go down! Yeah. Those bamboo and tree trunk barricades, they are not impenetrable, but every time they cost a lot of effort. I think about 100 meters ahead, there is some sort of river, well, small stream from the right. I don't know if this stream goes right there or one branch continues straight. If the main branch continues straight, that's what I guess. But I will take the right branch. It's gonna bring me back into the oil palm plantations. Amazing that I even attempt to go back to those boring sunny oil palm plantations, but there is no need to go for miles into the jungle if I don't know a way out. Big almond-like fruits lying around. This one is already opened. Big seed. They're coming from this tree with the brown leaves. It's shedding its fruit. However, they are not edible. Unlike those small ones, which are also not edible because they are not ripe yet. Those things are starting to creep me out. Marquise hutan, a non-edible passion fruit relative. Also, guess this is some reishi or close relative. Also not edible as far as I can tell. And I love those specific jungle vines. For me, they are much more useful jungle ropes than the rattan palms.